all aware of this phenomenon, the so-called fresh WoW hype, and now the more recent Classic Plus hype. And odds are, you're going through one of these phases right now. The fresh WoW phase is a very unique and widely recognized cultural experience in the gaming community. There are YouTube videos about it, surveys about it, and even memes about it. And more recently, we've seen the rise of Classic Plus hype. Everyone is talking about it everywhere. But what most of us don't seem to understand is, why? Why do we have this fresh WoW or Classic Plus hype? And why does it keep coming back after all these years? Why do so many people in our generation experience this? Well, to answer this question, we have to go back in time a little bit. Back to a time before Fresh or Classic Plus was even a thing. Back to our first introduction to this game we all love. And for me, that time was 2005. I remember this all like it was yesterday. It was June, summer vacation had just started, and a friend of mine had recently introduced me to this massive new MMORPG. Of course, I had to play at his house because the only computer I had at home was a family Dell that would struggle to play RuneScape on a browser. I would create a character, usually a Night Elf Hunter, spawn into Teldrassil, and just run around killing mobs for hours, and then have to head home for dinner. I'm pretty sure I never got past level 5, but it was enough to get me absolutely hooked. So I did what every kid did back then, and used any birthday money I'd saved and sold some stuff and built a really cheap, really crappy gaming PC to play WoW on at home. My gaming setup was a keyboard, a mouse, a monitor, and speakers all sitting on top of a tiny snack table because I didn't have room for a desk in my room. But I made it work and booted up the game for the first time in my own room. The sights, the sounds, and the players running around chatting with each other immediately drew me into the game, giving me a sense of immersion that I had just never felt before. And from that moment on, I don't think I ever stopped playing World of Warcraft. And of course, why would I? The game was and is genius. It's basically a giant world that never stopped moving, even after you logged off. You got to create your character, level up to get stronger, and explore a world that felt so massive and endless. At that time, you would never run out of things to do or places to explore. In 2007, we received our first expansion, The Burning Crusade, and then in 2008, we got the second expansion, Wrath of the Lich King. It was honestly as close to perfect as it gets. But no matter how perfect it was, by the end of 2010, there was a new game on the block that had caught my eye.
Talara has always been threatened by forces beyond the Ward.
No, I'm kidding. Rift was great for a solid few hours, but it was no WoW killer like everyone said. Look, the point is, WoW started to get a little bit boring, just like any game that you play for so long would. So one day, without even realizing it, I logged out of WoW for the last time. Until August of 2019, when my first ever fresh WoW experience would begin. Oh my god, that guy was walking free for so long. 7,000 Q? My god, dude. Even though this was first of many fresh WoW experiences, it turned out it was just as amazing as it was back in 2005. Maybe even a little bit better. The first 12 months or so was fun and exciting, but around the 13-month marker, it really all started to fade away. And as many of us will attest to this, it just wasn't the same as it once was. This fresh WoW carried on into a re-release of the Burning Crusade Classic, Wrath of the Lich King Classic, and now even Cataclysm Classic 5 years after Classic launched in 2019. And now that I think of it, prior to starting this YouTube channel, I don't think I've ever played WoW for this long without taking breaks in between. Most of my history with World of Warcraft since around 2010 was to just come back for the beginning or the end of new expansions, play for around 6 months or so, and then take a break and go play other games. This went on for quite a long time, since in Modern WoW we're currently on our 10th expansion, The War Within. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that usually that initial hype lasts anywhere from 2 to 6 months for most players, and this is for many reasons, but there's one that stands out to me the most, and it's one that I didn't expect.
All right, so Gribble's going to be getting X out.
You can just switch over sides over here if you want, Gribble.
Yeah, that might be
Since
better.
you're over here.
Yeah, let's just do that.
We all know that feeling. The feeling of a fresh WoW launch, or a new classic expansion, where you decide this time, I'm going to take my time and enjoy the game. I'm not going to rush to endgame and speed through all the content as fast as possible. I'm going to take my time leveling up and exploring this beautiful world. But sadly for most players, this doesn't end up happening. You and a group of friends start playing on day one, maybe you join a guild, and then all of a sudden you find yourself competing with everyone else leveling alongside you. Severe FOMO sets in, and you don't want to be left in the dust. So you start what I like to call the rush. You rush as fast as you can to endgame, you rush as fast as you can to farm your pre-raid bisc gear, you rush until there's nothing left to do but log out until next raid night. I can't speak for everyone, and I know there's tons of players out there that don't play like this, but sadly, for a lot of the player base, this is how it plays out. Now after a few weeks in, or maybe a month or so, you've done all the available content, and you find yourself raid logging until the next week. But honestly, as most of you already know, WoW was not designed to be played this way. It was designed with the idea of the world, Azeroth, being the main character, not you. You're supposed to take your time exploring and questing, playing around with some of your wacky talents that make absolutely no sense, and ultimately just getting immersed in this massive world. It was designed to be played at a much slower pace so that you can explore the vast biomes scattered all around the world. It was designed to be played alongside other players or your friends, clearing dungeons, and even traveling all around the world to obtain the quests for that specific dungeon. Now don't get me wrong, we all love watching Noda speedrun the world first raid clears. It's part of the classic culture at this point. But some of the most fun I've ever had in WoW were when I was much, much younger, and I didn't really fully understand how to play the game fast. Some of those experiences and memories that I made back then still stand out to me today. I didn't use crazy add-ons or set myself insanely aggressive goals. I just played the game at its natural pace and enjoyed it every step of the way. Now I'm not here to say that there's a right or wrong way to play the game. Everyone can play the game however they want. I'm just saying that if you truly want to play the game and have the hype last a little bit longer than just a few months, or even a few weeks in some situations, just challenge yourself to not play like a world-first speedrunner. Because the reality of it is, for most people, it's just less fun to play like that. I'm guilty of it as well. FOMO hits me super hard and I end up blasting all the content as fast as I can. But the thing is, people who play this way most of the time are doing it because it's their job. So unless you're a classic WoW YouTuber or a streamer, why rush? Let the creators rush to complete everything and get their content out while you sit back and just enjoy the ride. Look, we all know the reason that slightly older folks like myself go back and play classic WoW. It's to re-experience that feeling of getting home from school or your job at the grocery store and hopping on WoW with your friends. For me, this was back in 2005, and it went on for years. I would constantly create new characters on both sides, Horde and Alliance, get them to around level 20-ish, and then just make a new one. I didn't even think I hit level cap for the first time until right before Burning Crusade dropped, but it didn't matter. I was having the most fun that I think I've ever had in WoW, and I know that I'm not alone in this. So many people experienced WoW in a similar way back then. So having established this, let's think about it. I played back in 2005, and I'm 32 now. And I would say that on average, for classic WoW players, you're most likely between the ages of 25 and 45. Most of us have so many more responsibilities than we had back then in those younger days when we initially started playing, and most of our old squads that we played with are either broken up or not gaming as much anymore. And that's just due to life progressing. But for a brief moment, a few weeks or even months, we get to relive that magic. We get to jump in and try and recreate that feeling that we had when we were younger. And for a lot of us, it works. The only issue is that it doesn't last forever. And once reality sets in that you need to put in some serious time to get to that endgame goal, a lot of people tend to burn out or just log off until the next round of hype comes along. And this really is okay in my opinion. Sure, there's a lot of us like myself who end up playing the whole way through, but I would argue that at least half the player base that starts on day 1 of a fresh hype no longer are playing by month 2, maybe even earlier. This is just the cycle of how Fresh WoW Classic works, and I honestly think it will continue to work like this indefinitely. Almost every WoW player gets the itch to play WoW again once they've stepped away for a break. And things like Fresh or Classic Plus will be perfect to scratch that itch. We're experiencing it right now if you think about it. We're about 10 months deep into Season of Discovery currently. It's still going pretty strong, but the hype is nowhere near as high as it was for the first 4 months. People have decided to take breaks, go back to hardcore, check out the new retail expansion, or maybe even quit entirely for the time being. And currently, since I was able to get that soft confirmation for a Classic Plus coming in the future from the devs, there has been non-stop talk about it. And this is how the cycle continues.